Father, thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you, Lord, for our committee meeting today. Bless all the participants that is here today, Lord, and we pray for wisdom, pray for understanding, and just be with us as we go through these procedures. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Chuck Huston Jr.
Here.
David Walkenstick.
Here.
Joel England.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Bird.
Honey.
Julia Coates. Here. Jody Fishinghawk. Here. Meredith Fraley. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Tom Garvin. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Tana Blair Jordan.
Present.
Lee Keener.
Honey.
Dick Lay.
Here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton.
Honey.
Tara Fallon Watts.
Honey.
We do have a quorum.
Okay. All right, we'll now move to approval of the June 28th, 2012 minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
Hargis, second by Councilor Anglin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We now move to reports. Marshall.
Good afternoon. First, let me apologize for not being here last month. I was out of the state in training. I hope you weren't too hard on my assistant, Danny Tanner. He's a good guy, but if you need to beat somebody up, I can bring him over anytime. Other than that, is there any questions you have for the report this month?
Any questions for the Marshal? No questions? Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now move on to Office of Attorney General. Attorney General Henry.
I have a feeling mine won't be as... Again, ladies and gentlemen of the council, it's always an honor and privilege to address this body. We have been extremely busy in the Attorney General's office to give you an update as to matters of major concern. First would be the issue on the Freedman cases. Our answer is due in Cherokee Nation versus Nash on August 6th. We will be filing motions to dismiss counterclaims based on legal defenses, including sovereign immunity. It's our position that although we filed the case in the Northern District, that we did not waive the immunity of the tribe and we merely asked for a declaratory judgment as to what rights, if any, individuals have under the Treaty of 1866. So therefore, we will be moving to dismiss those counterclaims filed by the Nash plaintiffs. Also, as I reported earlier, the plaintiffs in the Van case in D.C. have moved to intervene into the Northern District. That was an unopposed motion, and that has now taken place. So we are now officially everyone at the same court, same table, with the filing of the United States government to answer for also a declaratory judgment on the Treaty of 1866. The Nash plaintiffs or defendants have also filed a series of counterclaims against the United States government. I've been in contact with them, and I fully expect them to also file motions to dismiss the Nash counterclaims based on sovereign immunity. Individually, I will talk to you with more detail on that. Obviously, there are some legal strategies that are involved by both us and the United States, and we will talk with that individual and I would be happy to if you want to avail yourself. Continuing on the Freedman, our response appellate brief in D.C. has been filed in the D.C. Circuit. That's the appeal case. Along with the United States brief, they have filed their response. We are now awaiting the reply brief of the Van defendants, or the Van plaintiffs in the D.C. Circuit. We've been working with outside counsel, or the ones that we have always, previously, or has always been on the case, the Orrick law firm. So we have been had a straight continuity in that case. One thing of note, and you might want to calendar this date, the D.C. Circuit on its own volition, without motion, has set the oral argument for that case on October 18th. I don't know the time, but I will get that to you. So October 18th, we will be having oral argument in the D.C. appeal on the Van versus Salazar et al. Again, still on the Freedman, we expect a briefing schedule to be filed in the Northern Districts within the next few weeks. We have a joint status conference due on August 10th. As you can tell, the the activity on the Friedman cases on both fronts has skyrocketed. Again, that's a very good thing in my opinion. One of the things that I promised to do upon confirmation was to bring this matter to a resolution, and resolution being a court decision. So we are going to we are moving at rocket speed on that issue. Continuing on with major issues, United Catawba land in the trust cases. As we have reported, and you all well know, a settlement agreement between the UKB and the state of Oklahoma gave a deadline of July 31st, 2012 for the UKB to get a decision from the Bureau of Indian Affairs to put the 2.3 acres of land in trust for gaming purposes. We have expressed our concerns to officials in Washington, D.C. Every indication that we have received is that UKB will not be given any special treatment than any other tribe would be that they would have. But mindful that next Tuesday is the deadline date. We have filed our objection to the 2 acres to put land in the trust. If there is a decision that is adverse to the interests of the Cherokee Nation by the Assistant Secretary, we will proceed in to appeal, just like we did the 76 acres decision. We will, so obviously keep that date on your calendar. Next Tuesday is the big day. We'll find out what happens. But we are prepared. The Attorney General's office is prepared to respond in whatever manner that comes down. As to the 76 acres that I mentioned earlier, I've been working very closely with Lloyd Miller, Snoski Chambers, who again has been the counsel throughout on the UKB Land and Trust issues. We have filed our appellate brief, and this is in the BIA appeals, not the district court yet. We've filed our brief. The United States has, on July 18th has filed their response, and we are awaiting the UKB response. So whatever their responses are, we will be filing an appropriate reply, and to get this obviously hopefully reverse Secretary Echohawk's decision to put that land into trust. All these documents, I am making an effort to your legal counsel to be disseminated to you. If there are, with all the activity, if there are briefs or motions that you don't have that you want, please contact my office, and we will make sure that every document that is filed you get access to. As to codification, we'll go ahead, Mr. Chairman. We'll go on into the codification. We have talked with the treasurer of the Cherokee Nation. We've identified funds, to get that done. Obviously, we'll be coming to the Executive Finance Committee probably next month to approve those funds. We have not signed a contract yet, obviously because we don't have the money yet, but we are holding off because the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court has asked to address some matters with codification at their next regular meeting, which will be August 20th. So therefore, we will be meeting with the Supreme Court justices, and we'll hold off any action until we make sure that we answer their questions and address their concerns. One other last note that I have is, as we reported, two other things. The contract support cost litigation that we were a party of was successful. We are marshaling through the help with Ms. Handy what damages that we have in this case. We are going to be pressuring IHS and the Department of the Interior to streamline this matter through the judgment fund, and hopefully this will result in a quick resolution that will result in tens of millions of dollars to the Cherokee Nation. This was our focal point of contact when Chief Baker and I had the opportunity to meet with President Obama. We addressed this issue that was not only a benefit to the Cherokee Nation, but to all Indian country. And he was very receptive, and we have followed up with that with communications to his staff. One last note, this morning I am pleased to announce that the Cherokee Nation was successful in its defense of the adoption in-rape baby Veronica. This is the South Carolina case that you recall that had a Cherokee father and a Cherokee child. They did not follow the procedures of the Indian Child Welfare Act. We were successful in district court, in family court in South Carolina, and we were successful in the 73-page opinion, 3-2 vote by the South Carolina Supreme Court. Not only is this a victory for a Cherokee daughter and a Cherokee father, this is a major, major victory for the enforcement of Indian child welfare nationwide. My staff need to be commended, especially Chrissy Nemo, who worked on this case tirelessly, and my hat's off to her, and I commend her. With that concludes my report, and I will avail myself to any questions. Yeah.
Any questions for the Attorney General? Councilor Fraley.
I thought I had some calls recently about probate on restricted land. Do you happen to know the status of the draft of amendments that the 5 tribes were considering, which would put us under the American Indian Probate Code? And also, I think that allows, I think the advantage also is that the BIA would pay for the probate. Do you happen to know what the status is on those amendments?
I do not, but I will find out, and I will get a written report to you very, very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions for the Attorney General? Councilor Kyle Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the baby Veronica case,
Yes.
can you give us copies of the opinions? Because I assume there's a dissenting opinion, right?
Yes. I will,
You
I will email it because that's a lot.
Thank you.
Because it's a lot of paper, folks. It is I have not gotten all the way through it. I have gotten through the majority opinion, which is 25 pages long. The rest is dissenting. From what I've read through the dissenting, it's more emotional than it is legal. I mean, the law is what it is. I mean, they followed the law, and this was obviously a hard set of facts, but even in the set of, well, a hard set of facts as to the emotion, as to actually what happened, the facts were all on our side for the Cherokee father. But anytime you're dealing with the custody of a young child, it is hard. But no, it is a very lengthy opinion, very good opinion. I will make sure that it's all emailed to you.
Certainly, Councilor.
So was the military able to, because I think there was applicable military law in his circumstances, not just federal tribal laws. Did they intervene in the case and assist us in that as well?
They did not. I mean, that was more of a note, whether he got proper notice while he was in the military was those applicable statutes. And I will stand corrected. Was there a friend of the court brief by the military? I didn't think so. No, the decision is squarely on ICW.
Okay, so will we be doing a news release, and will we maybe provide that to where people can readily, there's been a lot of interest, at least in my area, on this issue. Can we post that opinion and a news release together on the website, maybe?
Yes, we will. We are working on a press release as we speak. I've already gotten calls from 3 TV stations. You all will be getting calls. And undoubtedly requests for interviews. I will give you the case in our press release, and I'm having someone work on a synopsis of the case too, so that you won't have to go through all 73 pages. But that's why I want to make sure you got this information, because Yeah, it's newsworthy. I mean, before this case was decided, CNN, Anderson Cooper, and Fox News, they've all done expert days on it, and I guarantee you there will be copious follow-ups on this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Garland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Todd, you mentioned Ms. Nemo. What was her part in this? Was she the lead attorney at the trial?
She was the lead attorney for the Cherokee Nation. The father had his attorney. We worked, very closely with his father's, with the father's attorney. But this case we knew was going to be decided on the interpretation of Indian child welfare. So if it had not been for the expertise and the diligent work of Ms. Chrissy Nemo, we would not have won this case. And that's, I want to give her 100% of the credit because she did a good service to the Cherokee Nation and the Indian country.
Let's give Christy a hand.
I wish she could be here, but as we speak, she is giving a talk on, she is being a consultant at a conference on Indian child welfare. Everybody knows her expertise. But I will make sure she comes next month, and you guys can call her in person.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Walkinston.
Have we had any follow-up on the sick leave policy that I called you back a week ago?
It was, and Mr. Morton, I know, had a copy of that, and I know that he and Mr. Foster had communications, and I will pass the buck to Mr. Morton.
Mr. Morton, where are we at on that sick leave policy that Mr. Foster drew up about getting the sick leave into have an option to either do the bank or to designate sick leave to
into an individual
yes.
certain circumstances. We've done the review. I can check. It's out of our office.
It's out of your office,
Yes,
so it's
I
waiting
check
for
on
chief's
status
signature.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We will make sure that we obviously have done the review and it's been sent back to HR, and we will make sure that it gets followed up with.
All right, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mr. Morton.
Any question for the Attorney General?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Election Commission.
Good afternoon to the Rules Committee. You have a couple of things in your packet, I think, that we sent over as an act and omnibus report. Before I go any further, I would like to introduce our attorney for the Election Commission, Mr. Harvey Chapin. If you have any questions on the act, I'll let Mr. Chapin answer those questions. If you have any questions on the omnibus report, I got two girls here that can answer, I think, about anything that you want to ask.
Councilor Count Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is on the omnibus report. So, I have a number of questions. So on the communication portion, it talks about consultation, and I would assume consultation would be with the public or the voters, but in the response, it doesn't address consulting or working with the voters to make sure that they have input and only working with the tribal council, which somewhat limits public input. Is this a final report, or is this something that we?
This is our report that was based on what we got from the Carters and looking at that and what changes we thought we needed to make. We're working on some further suggestions to legislative changes to our act that will probably, once you guys have your redistricting finished up, there will be some changes that need to be made there, I'm sure. But voters are always welcome to come to our meetings and provide any sort of input that that hasn't changed, that won't change, and they're always welcome to come provide input to us at any point.
The way I read the the report, both the 1990s report from the Carter Commission as well as this latest report from the 2011 elections, was that there was really a lack of formal request for response from the public on implementation of election laws. And I thought that this was one of those things that it spoke to, but in the response from the Election Commission in the italics, it only spoke to work with the tribal council and not with the public.
The writing of the election laws is your job, not ours. So if
Implementation of the law,
okay.
which is policy that would be written by.
Well, they're always welcome to come to our meetings and provide any sort of
Okay.
input that they would like to have. We wrote this with you guys in mind, not the public so much.
So on the voter identification precinct media, what will the voter ID requirements be then? What if, because last time, in 2011, the red cards weren't mailed to everybody, or what we refer to as the voter cards. And the way I read this is that they would have to have that with them, and if they don't get it, or if it's never received, they could be shut out of the polls.
We won't shut any eligible voters out of the polls. The red cards went to everyone we had a good address for. So like you guys, we also have a bad address problem that we're always trying to figure out how to fix.
You might go back to the old election commission because they stated differently when I asked this of them last time. So I don't think that was the case. And the election law reads they shall mail them out to everyone. And they, because of cost, stopped it, as I understood that was part of the problem.
I know that we have lots of them in our office in our vaults that were sent to people that were sent back to us because we had bad addresses on them. I know they went out last time.
Okay. Now, so we are effectively shutting out the media with this change in the precinct. So no, to ensure voter privacy, no cameras or video cameras will be allowed in precincts or within the 300 feet boundary. There's going to be no allowance for media.
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
Okay. Is that that's going to be in your bylaws? So will there be able to be public input on that?
Yes, when we do our bylaws, people can come and do input at our meetings.
Okay, so will you, because according to the APA, you're supposed to post these things and have a public meeting, and there's so many days before, and they have to be readily available on the website at Cherokee.org so that people can get them easily, look at them, and then provide actual input, either in writing or in person?
I think our response to your question about the APA is a separate response that we can have our attorney address.
Okay, so how do you have a written policy then on the public input, or is it just come to the meeting when they're held and they're not posted on the internet, so you'll just have to call?
It's come to the meeting when they're.
On absentee balloting, is there going to be specifics about the steps that will be taken? Because it was very vague in the response. It says that you will, but there's not any specifics on the steps to be taken.
The specific steps will be outlined in greater detail when everything is finished, when redistricting's done, when our bylaws and rules and regulations are completed.
Okay, and what is the status of our election service provider?
We've been interviewing and working with 3 companies. We have one who they'll be presenting to us for the first time later this month. We're still working on that.
Okay, and what are the 3 companies?
True Ballot, Hart, and Civic, which is the company that contracts with the state of Oklahoma currently, and Unison, which is another company that the state of Oklahoma looked at.
True Ballot,
Hart, Civic.
and then what was the third? I'm sorry.
Unison, UNISYN.
Okay, and the Hart InterCivic is state of Oklahoma. So will we be using those new digital machines that we're seeing in this last election?
If we go with that company, that's what we'll use. We're all the companies that offer some different things, and we're looking at them and evaluating the services they provide and the costs and all those things.
Okay.
Going back to your question there on the input from the people, we have got to send out all new registration forms because of the redistricting. Because just like in my county, where it's Janelle's and it's Davis, they go up anything east of 17 Highway all the way to the county line, anything west of it, it's up, and people's going to be hollering, well, I voted over here all this time, you know. So we've got to get all that out. And when we get these bad addresses, they're not going to get their mail because they hadn't never changed their address, and they're going to be hollering, well, I can't vote. Well, everything I know we can do is run it in the paper, in South Carolina paper, run it in the Cherokee Phoenix. Anybody else east of this line and west of that line, you're going to vote in these different districts. And I think that's a way of communicating with the public. If they don't communicate with us back, we can't do anything about it. I mean,
Would you consider running a list of all names of voters with bad addresses in the Cherokee Phoenix?
If that were necessary, we could do that, but I don't know if that's,
Or even on the website?
if that were necessary, if you guys wanted us to do that, I suppose we could.
Okay, I have one last question. On the database standardization, you're recommending that all citizens, once they turn 18, would be automatically registered to vote?
Yeah. I think that would solve problems of people showing up at the polls not, assuming they were, because they were registered tribal members, assuming they were also registered to vote. I think some tribes do that, and I think that could help with some of the problems that we have.
Okay, so we'll be able to buy those lists then?
If that's a change in the law that you guys make,
Then that would be the next step.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Anything further, Councilor Conwatts?
Not on the omnibus report.
I think Councilor Willie had a question
Thank you.
on that. Did you have a question, Councilor?
But thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I don't know, it's not on this report, but it's general purpose, I think, is I heard the election service providers list, and I wondered, did not the election commission ever consider doing our own election? Our own people buying the little voting machines and doing it ourselves?
We did consider that, and we've consulted with people who've done that before. We've consulted with the Cherokee County Election Board to talk to them about that, and they told us that would be a mistake at this point. For the next election, we don't have time. You have to get those machines purchased. There's a lot of software work that goes into those machines, and that could be something on into the future, but not for this next upcoming election. There's just simply isn't the time to do that.
You have to understand the idea of us, of Cherokee people, seeing a non-Indian, a non-Cherokee, walking in and out of that ballot room time after time after time, still sticks in our craw.
I understand that,
And so,
Councilman Lay.
that's why I recommended to y'all months ago to at least consider it.
We did consider it months ago. We met with the Cherokee County Election Board months ago, and she
And
told
here
us
we
that
go down the same road we were on for years now.
she told us it was impossible to do. She said it would be a disaster, said you'd have more problems than you ever had in the last election.
That's impossible.
She said because you well, I don't know.
Forgive me, sir. I didn't mean to sound flippant. I know you guys are working hard.
we asked an
and I
expert.
appreciate it.
After we met with you and talked to you about it, we asked someone who could tell us if that were a good idea or not. And she said that in the future, possibly, but for this upcoming election, which is our big concern right now, that it's not a good idea.
Well,
to
it's
do that.
always the upcoming election is a big concern, and we go down this road of these providers, and something else happens. Okay, that's all I'm getting at.
Well, we asked people, we even asked True Ballot, about buying our own boxes from them. And they said there's not any way that they could get all the boxes out to us and get them made up and get them put out here by election time. They said it's impossible.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Have you
Councilor.
got anything to ask on the act?
I think we have some more questions,
Got some more questions on the,
potentially on the
okay.
omnibus report. Councilor Fulbright.
Thank you. Just so I can be clear in my mind, maybe everybody else understood it, but you're recommending that we go to the change that when someone applies for their blue tribal membership, they will automatically be registered to vote. Is that correct?
Yes, we think that could streamline things a bit more and help out.
Okay, I think that's a very good idea because so many people went to the polls with their blue card and when you're out campaigning and they, oh yeah, I can vote, and it's like way past registration day, and all they have is that blue card, and you tell them, do you have that little red and white voter registration? No, I didn't know you had to. If they thought they were.
Saves people an extra layer of paperwork that they don't have to fill out or worry about, we think.
Well, I think that's an excellent idea.
And to a lot of reasons, some of those didn't have the red card, bad addresses. They move somewhere and then it just gets sent back to us. And we don't have that. Have no idea where we moved to.
I think that would help us out when more and more people would be able to vote because they would automatically be registered when they applied for the blue card.
Yeah, that was our idea.
That's what we're working for.
Well, that's a good idea.
More turnout.
I like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Coates next.
I will withdraw. Mine was in response to Councilor Lay's, and that's a debate for another day.
Very good, very good. Councilor Byrd, did you have a question or comment?
I like that comment about the registration part on the blue cards, that they would be allowed to vote. For years, we've had our traditional people out in rural areas not necessarily registered to vote, but they have the card, they go to the polls and can't vote. And these are the foundation of our tribe that are not allowed to vote. So I'm glad that you guys are looking into other areas to allow anybody that can vote.
Anybody who wants to vote who's Cherokee should be able to vote.
Absolutely.
Here's the card.
Yes. Thank you.
I have a question. Getting back to the voter identification, one of the is somewhat of a point of frustration for me in the last election cycles. It wasn't clear to me what the Election Commission's position was on whether you needed to present an ID at the polls. As I read the statute, you don't. You don't have to present an ID, which is consistent with, unfortunately, a shrinking number of states across the United States. They're getting voter ID laws all over. But by and large, I think last 50 years, the norm has been you don't present an ID. I think that's the way our law was written. Now, I think the Carter Commission has pointed to some other area of the statute. Maybe it creates an ambiguity, but I think you'd resolve that in favor of less obstruction to voting, so no ID. And I guess I want to make sure Mr. Chafin works on this too. I'd like a position from the Election Commission, not right now, unless you have it, is what does the law say on whether you have to present an ID? Not whether it's a good idea to present an ID or not whether it'd be helpful to the poll workers to have an ID, but whether the law requires it. I don't think it does, but I could be wrong. So in a future meeting, if you could, I appreciate that. All right, thank you. That's all I have. Any other questions? Okay. Well, that's it for the Election Commission report. Thank you very much.
No questions, no react.
We're in reports right now, sir. So thank you. All right, Ms. Swepston.
I think you all have my report, and I'll try to address any questions that you might have regarding that.
Any questions for the Tax Commission? Okay, none. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, Mr. Keener.
Well, not really a question, but what kind of a question? I was asking if you're going to stay around for the later on. Okay. I have some questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. All right, we are now at self-governance. Ms. Hanby.
Sorry I wasn't here last month. I was at the advisory committee meeting in D.C. and I believe you have my report, even though it may not have actually made it into your packets. A couple of things I wanted to brief you on. First of all, we completed all of the Recovery Act reports again for the quarter. We remain to be 100% in compliance, to our knowledge. I just drove in from Norman this morning where Dr. Chuck Grimm and I met with the VA and IHS and several Oklahoma tribes. And again, this is in regards to the initiative that I spoke to you about a couple of months ago. IHS and the VA have a memorandum of understanding for those two agencies to work together to better serve our veterans. The Alaska tribes have already come up with some agreements. I want to say there's about 14 tribes that have agreements directly with the VA. Since I spoke to you last, there have been 2 Oklahoma tribes that have also, one has actually reached an agreement, and that's the Creek Nation, and the Choctaws are actually negotiating an agreement directly with the VA as we speak. So another item that I think is really progressing in serving our veterans is a pilot project that's being implemented in Clinton, where, and again, it's not just in regards to reimbursement and how that IHS and VA can work together on IHS reimbursement, but also how to better serve and coordinate services to our veterans. And that's primarily what the agreement in Clinton is about. So Dr. Grimm and I, along with other folks from Health Services, will be making further meetings in that regard, and we're interested in seeing how that we can work together to better serve our veterans. I also provided you an update on the contract support cost litigation and the Contract Disputes Act claims that we have filed. I provided you a privileged and confidential memo from Lloyd Miller that outlines all the way, some of the history behind the Cherokee Nation case and bringing it forward with some of the other cases that are ongoing and what the status of those cases are and what that could mean to us. I also provided you with a draft IHS status on where we are with our claims that looks like this. Primarily, I want to explain that there's two types of claims that we have with Indian Health Service. One is for the direct and indirect contract support cost, or what you might refer to as the regular contract support cost claim. And then the second one is what we call a supplemental claim, and that's for consequential damages. In other words, if we had been paid our full contract support costs, we could have further provided services and had an opportunity to bring in further third-party revenue and so forth. So in other words, the supplemental claim is for damages for not being paid the regular contract support costs. And again, that's layman terms. I'm not an attorney, but that's layman terms for what we have outstanding. With IHS, we've previously filed claims in the amount of $30 million, a little over $30 million. We currently have drafted almost $18 million worth of claims. And I want to mention to you that we are doing those claims in-house with copies and so forth, working with Lloyd Miller, but we do that ourselves in order to keep the legal costs down. So that's one thing that we can do in-house and save some money with that. There are a couple of claims that I'm waiting on some information for 2011 and 2012 from Health Services, and once we get that information, we'll actually file those claims. So currently, in total, we have about $48.6 million in IHS CDA claims that have already been filed or we will be filing in the near future. And that's not counting the last two years. So I've been working on IHS and have not worked up numbers on DOI. The 1 year's claim that we had filed for 2005 was about $380,000 for DOI. So we're talking about smaller dollar amounts. So I put my efforts in IHS, which has the larger dollar amounts that we're dealing with. I know that last month there were a few questions about what it means for us going forward. At the end of the Supreme Court decision, it basically said that the solution to all this CST litigation is really up to Congress as to how to resolve that. It appears that through a lot of our lobbying efforts and different work that's being done by tribes all across the nation, Congress is looking at fully supporting or fully appropriating funding for contract support costs. That's a huge step in the right direction. As Todd alluded to earlier, this money that I'm talking about is not money in the bank. We still have to negotiate a settlement, and that's again with both agencies, IHS and DOI, as to how each agency is going to arrive at settlement, not only with Cherokee Nation, but for all tribes that have filed CDA claims. The attorneys have been working together with both agencies and setting up meetings, especially this month, to try to get started on how they're going to reach agreement on settling these outstanding claims. Our part right now is to get all the files, all the claims filed, so that we be sure and have our claims in the queue so that we can settle those. Are there any questions in regards to that or to the report?
Let's get a report. Get a report.
Mr. King. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Vicki, on the 48.6 in CSC claims, that's over the past 5 years for both IHS and DOI?
No, that's just IHS.
Okay. So you haven't got started on the DOI, right? Really?
We just filed for 2005, which was about 380,000, I think it was. I've got it.
Broke down 385.
Yeah.
But once you do start on that, it will be for the same 5-year period, right?
Yes. Yes. It'll actually be for 2006 through whatever current year week, either 11. They haven't actually issued 12 data, but we could estimate that to get something in.
We really have no idea what the dollar amount would end up being, right?
It's going to be considerably less. I don't see it being. In 2005, it was 380,000. It'll roughly be close to that amount for a few years, and then the last few years it'll be very small. So we're not talking about a lot of money for DOI.
On IHS, what are you thinking about on that one? Be 50 cents on the dollar? Or,
oh, to settle? Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
We want 48 million.
We want all of it.
48.6 million. Okay. And then once we do so, going forward, will it be the same scenario again, or will we try to remedy the situation where it won't be?
Well, again, that's where the court said the ultimate, going forward, the ultimate resolution to this is for, now we've got 2 cases that have come out of the Supreme Court where tribes have taken it all the way up to the highest court of the land, and the tribes have prevailed in both cases. So either Congress can change the law, and here again I'm speaking, I'm not an attorney, but they can either change the law to where it would say that we're not entitled to the full contract support cost, or they could appropriate enough money to fully pay contract support costs. And it seems within some of the early releases of some information that we've received, Congress is putting more money into contract support costs. In other words, we need to pay our tribal contractors on the same basis as we would any other contractor. And that would, of course, is our position.
Right.
So,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions for Ms. Handy? Okay, thank you very much.
the final thing that I have is we are in the process of hiring staff within self-governance. I'm the only person right now, so if you know of anyone interested, please pass the word. I would love to hire some good people. So, thank you.
Good job. All right. Gaming Commission?
I'm Deborah Wilson. I'm the administrative officer at the Gaming Commission. Jamie can't be here today. He's actually testifying in D.C. today on gaming issues. I do believe he sent the report out. I do have one little update on our Administrative Procedures Act. We have a history page where I list every minimum internal control standard as to whether it was passed by the commissions and when it was posted on the Cherokee website so that it's notification to the public. I did have one entry since the last time I updated this for you all, and Jane gave this to you, and that was March 7th. The Gaming Commission actually approved and posted for 30-day comment period, Section 23 on surveillance. And these proposed changes was to reflect the continual process and to update internal controls. Surveillance is one of those technical areas that is constantly changing all the time. And NIGC, which is our National Gaming Association, also had some updated stuff that we needed to get put into our minutes. So we posted that for 30-day comment. That was in March. Now, the only people that did make a comment to it was Cherokee Nation Enterprises. And based on the comments that we had, we did schedule a face-to-face meeting with them. I believe we had 2 meetings with them concerning some of the new changes that were in there. And after we took their comments into consideration and responded, we sent it before the gaming commissioners once again, and on May 30th, during that particular commission meeting, they approved the final document, and that was posted June 1st onto the Cherokee Nation website to notify everybody. So that's the only update that I have on that particular report. As far as what the Gaming Commission is doing right now, we have 3 properties that are under construction to either upgrade or new casinos. So our staff is geared up and ready. We'll be there to do all the testing and helping with the installs. I personally attend their construction meetings and do walkthrough inspections all during the construction process, and then I'll be doing the final walkthrough and give them their authorization to open. So we've been keeping up with those, and all I can say is it's always been really tough when it was one construction site and we've got 3 going on at the same time. So it's been very busy for us. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for the Gaming Commission? Thank you very much.
Your report.
Thank you.
Mr. Justice, Registrar Citizenship Data Update.
Don't have many updates for you except registration updates. For the month of June, they had 910 address changes and 151 deceased notices.
Questions for Mr. Justice? Thank you very much. All right. Next item of business is old business. Item number 1. Yes, Madam Speaker.
Yes, I have a request to amend the agenda on about 5 things. There is an act to require certain tribal positions of authority to be enrolled citizens of the Cherokee Nation, sponsored by Dick Lay. An act to provide for additional oversight to Cherokee Nation business by the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council, sponsored by Mr. Thornton. An act amending Legislative Act 1609 as amended by Legislative Acts 19-00, number 8-01, And number 5-05, establishing a free and independent press for the Cherokee Nation, sponsored by myself, Jody Fishinghawk, and Janelle Fulbright.
Do we have all of those?
We're going to pass them around. In fact, if we start passing them around. Okay.
Is this ready?
Yeah, I think that'll do. Let me have one of those. And then, an act amending Legislative Act 2612, revising Title 26, Elections of the Cherokee Nation Code Annotated, amending Section 5, adding provisions for enforcement, declaring an emergency, sponsored by myself, Mr. Hoskins, and Ms. Fishinghall. And then a legislative act repealing all sections of Title 28 containing all sections regarding nepotism and ethics and replacing with legislation that's coming out of the printer now. So I have all those, I have 5 amendments to the agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion to amend the agenda with those 5 items. And they would be on the end. And we have a second by
Call for a division.
Councilor Fishinghawk. And we have a call for division. I have a question of our council. Is a call for division a debatable motion?
I'm not the council anymore.
I thought she was 2 years.
As our Robert's Rules of Order expert, can you?
Right, but
I would say and that the division is not debatable. It is actually one of them that can be individually called by a member of the body. So you will vote to amend the agenda for each item.
Very good.
I do have one question of our former.
I should leave.
Is the vision of the question to be used when you're just amending the agenda?
Yeah, any item that has severable parts that can be divided,
Understand.
it
Okay.
can be divided.
Very good. So we'll move now to taking these items separately. The first one was a legislation which I believe is before us by Councilor Lay concerning the Cherokee citizenship requirements of certain positions in the Cherokee Nation. So we have a motion and a second, and then the division with respect to that one. All in favor of amending Councilor Lay's legislation onto the agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
It is on the agenda. That will be new business item number 5. All right, next we have Councilor Thornton's legislation to provide additional oversight over Cherokee Nation businesses by the council. All in favor of amending that on the agenda, say aye.
I'm sorry.
We had a point of
What
clarification.
is, yeah, point of order, which one
We
is
don't
it?
have it.
It's okay. It was as described by the speaker. It was handed out before the meeting, I'm told. Let
We've
me.
had so much new stuff, we're trying to get it straight in front of us.
Councilor Thornton, could you assist us in identifying that document?
Go with that.
I just want to find it here so I know. All right.
Okay, we have it straight now.
Okay, very good, very good. I don't. All right, so we'll take the vote again. All those in favor of amending Councilor Thornton's legislation on the agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. It is approved. It'll be new business item number 6. We now move to item sponsored by Madam Speaker, an amendment to the Free Press Act. Is that item before us, Madam Speaker?
Yes, that would be number 3 that
This
I
one.
outlined.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
Jody Fishinghawk?
Oh. This is amending the Free Press Act.
Yes.
Pardon?
I just started with Jody. Meredith Elliott?
I'm sorry, I I need some clarification. What are we voting on, Mr. Chair?
Council, we're voting to amend the agenda to add the legislative act establishing a free amendment to the act that establishes a free and independent press. These all do tend to seem to look alike from a distance, but sponsored by Madam Speaker. Should have it in front of you.
So yes means you...
Yes is to amend the agenda.
Amending?
Amending, yes, amending
Yes.
only. Okay.
Janelle Fulbright. Don Garvin.
No.
Frankie Hargis.
Yes.
Chuck Huskin Jr.
Yes.
Hannah Gloria Jordan.
Yes.
Lee Keener.
No.
Dick Blake.
Yes.
Curtis Snell.
Yes.
David Thornton.
I'm stunned. I'm ready.
David Walkenstick.
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts.
No.
Bill England.
No.
Jack Baker.
No.
Joe Byrd.
Yes.
Juliet Coates.
No.
We have 9 yes, 6 no, 1 abstention, and 1 not there.
All right, so the free press amendment is now new business item number 7 on our agenda.
No, point of order.
Takes 2/3.
Oh, this one, so I thought it was a simple majority. Okay, it's 2/3? Okay, very good. I stand correct. So the Free Press Act does not go on the agenda. Item,
I would like to hear from our legal counsel, because I would question that, I guess I'm questioning the chair.
I've been corrected once, I could be corrected twice.
My understanding is it takes 9
I did think it was a simple
Two-thirds of
majority at
council.
committee.
2/3 of council. And I could stand, I could be wrong, but I'd like to.
Sure.
At any point.
All right. Very good. All right.
I will note that I will be asking for any legislation that we don't amend the agenda today to be on a special meeting before the next council meeting.
Okay. All right. The next item in the motion is the amendment to the Redistricting Act. This would be now new item number 7 if it's approved. Give councilors a moment to get that in front of them. All in favor of amending to add the redistricting legislation onto the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call. Well, we're amending the agenda, so.
Jack Baker.
No.
Joe Byrd.
To amend the what?
To amend the agenda for the redistricting.
Julia Coates.
No.
Jody Fishinghawk.
Yes.
Mary Fraley.
No.
Janelle Fulbright. Don Garvin.
No.
Frankie Hargis.
Yes.
Chuck Huskin Jr.
Yes.
Hannah Gloria Jordan.
Yes.
Lee Keener.
No.
Dick Blake.
Yep.
Curtis Snell.
Yes.
David Thornton.
Yes.
David Walkenstick.
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts.
No.
Bill England.
No.
We have 9 yes, 7 no, and 1 not in the room.
Redistricting is not on the agenda. Finally, we have the amendment to the, I believe it's the amendment to the Sunshine Act. Madam Speaker, we have that in front of us? No. No, not have it in front of us.
Which one is that, Mr. Chair?
We're handing it out now. I'm sorry.
Madam Speaker, is your motion still is this still part of your motion, the amending the Sunshine Act?
No, I'm going to ask it to be put on special meeting.
All right, she withdraws that portion of her motion. Those that failed to get on the agenda, you'll know will be on the next. Actually, the speakers asked for a special rules committee meeting. We'll work on scheduling that. All right, very good. Shelley, if you'd help me recap, new business item number 5 is Councilor Lay's legislation. New business item number 6 is Councilor Thornton's legislation. All right, very good. We now move into our next item of business, which is item number 1 under old business, an amendment to the Administrative Procedures Act. Councilor Cherokee wants.
Pardon me for just a moment while I dig myself out of all this paperwork dropped on us.
Take your time, Councilor.
So, would the secretary please provide us where we were at? Because I believe we were tabled in the middle of motions, and if I recall correctly, the motion was to add the housing authority to my main motion, which included the amendments in front of you, but I don't know if the housing authority is included on this. I think that's when we were tabled, was your motion, and I accepted as a friendly amendment.
Item 3 in old business.
This is concerning the Administrative Procedures Act.
The minutes reflect, if I could, Council, the minutes reflect that there was a motion on the floor that was tabled. Councilor Keener's motion to include the housing authority. Do you suggest that that's where we are?
That's what I recall.
Councilor Keener, you had a motion to add the housing authority to this legislation.
Yes.
Councilor Crown, you have the floor, but we are on his motion.
I think we were going to hear debate from other people, or there was some kind of response from the Attorney General's office or something.
Oh, the Attorney
My
General.
mind's clear what I want to do, so.
My recollection is the Attorney General is going to comment.
Okay. That's why I brought it back.
Good afternoon. A couple months ago when we were discussing this, I've had an opportunity to do an appeal in each section, and I noticed that this may create, as far as the Administrative Appeals Board dealing with TARO, there's a certain procedure that is already in place in the TARO Act, and all of the current versions, I believe there's one set at 3 o'clock this afternoon, still have that administrative procedure in place. If we were to pass this act and include TARO into it, we would have 2 possibly conflicting appeal processes once it gets to the actual administrative appeal. And that was my concern, and to let the body know that you could have a conflict with 2 portions of an act where either the attorneys or the board itself would not know which one to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Councilor Conwatts, we're on a motion about the housing authority part, but go ahead.
So I guess I shouldn't interrupt. Were you also going to speak to the housing authority, or were you just going to speak to the TARO portion?
Just the TARO portion is what I have. And the housing authority, if I remember correctly, a couple of months ago, it was mentioned that is also incorporated under the state. So I didn't know how that would interact between the 2.
So on the, if you'll give us the leeway, Mr. Chairman,
Certainly,
thank
yes.
you. So on the TARO group commission, I can't remember what we call it now, but on that group, there's no issues with the public participation portions. It's really the later stuff on the appeals process.
Yes, ma'am. I think it's Section 4 and Section 5.
Okay. So if all else fails, we could bring those portions back for just the TARO to comply with the public requirements.
For the rulemaking position,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And we are on Councilor Keener's motion to add the housing authority to Councilor Conwatts' legislation. Any further discussion on whether to add the housing authority into this legislation? Madam Speaker.
Well, again, we debated this somewhat a couple of months ago. The Housing Authority is a state agency. It is the rules that operate the Housing Authority and the rules that they go by for open meeting laws and all the things that we have in our laws, they have to comply with in state law. As I've said before, the nation cannot own a state agency. And I think we just need to leave it out of our procedures because we can't order a state agency to do anything, especially when they're spending their own money. And right now, all the money at the Housing Authority belongs to the Housing Authority. It's not money that we're sending over there. And if we send money over there through our NAHASDA funds, then it goes with an MOU, and that MOU tells them the rules that they've got to follow pertaining to that money. So I will be voting against adding the Housing Authority to this act.
Madam Speaker, any further discussion on the motion? And Ms. Barker-Harold, did you have a comment on the...
Mr. Chairman, the Attorney General and I have discussed this. The Housing Authority is not even a 51% entity owned by the tribe. It's a state agency. We are unable to impose those kinds of regulations on a state agency. So it probably would not be appropriate for this body to include the Housing Authority in a Tribal Administrative Procedures Act. And I think we're in agreement with that.
Very good. Any further discussion on the motion to add the Housing Authority? Councilor Watts.
I would even make an amendment that it has to do with our MOA and the monies that go over from the Cherokee Nation to the Housing Authority, that they have to comply with it in that manner.
Councilor, could you, are you making a motion? Are you making a motion to amend?
That it would apply specifically to the Cherokee Nation monies sent to the Housing Authority.
If that's in the form of
Whether
a
that's
friendly...
not that would clarify his motion. Do you accept that as a friendly?
All right. Any discussion now that the motion's been amended to... I think the essence of the motion is that there'd be some language that would say that in an MOU, the Housing Authority would have to comply with the APA. Is that? Do I understand that correctly?
Say that again.
I'm trying to grasp the amendment, but it would say something to the effect that any MOU between Cherokee Nation and the Housing Authority, the rules of the APA would attach. I don't know if I've got you correct or not.
Yes.
Does that raise any concerns, Ms. Barker-Hill?
Mr. Chair, part of the issue is that you're having two different, got the original request to add the TARO to the APA, and I think Councilor Keener's amendment to add the Housing Authority, and now you have Councilor Watts' further amendment to just clarify and limit what the APA applies to the Housing Authority. And because of that, it's going to be difficult to really clarify what it is without having it in writing. So I think that it would be better if everyone had a copy of it in writing to be able to clearly understand everything that's being put in here.
I can't disagree with that. Councilor Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know I appreciate the concerns, so I don't want to make a motion to table because it becomes undebatable yet, but what would probably be welcome is that the Housing Authority probably needs to start reporting to this body on a regular basis, and that we need a report on what the state requirements are. If they're going to stand and hide behind the idea that they're a state agency, then we need to understand how they're accountable for the Cherokee Nation people's money, no matter if it's a source from Cherokee Nation, NAHASDA, or otherwise.
I'd suggest, Councilor, that if you ask any state agency who has to comply with the state law, they're not hiding. They're out in the open. But I think we could do that. And I guess, Councilor Keener, you might consider withdrawing it and then taking Councilor Watts' approach, or maybe talking about things we can do in the MOUs in the future. It sounds like it might muddy the water a bit, but that's only my suggestion to you, Councilor.
Okay. I guess the motion will table.
Second.
motion table, second. All those in favor of tabling just Councilor Keener's motion, the housing authority say aye.
No.
What's that?
I'm going to vote no on tabling.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor of tabling say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay.
Roll call.
Okay, roll call.
Juliana Coates,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
No.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Frankie Hargis,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
Tyler Gloria Jordan,
No.
Lee Keener,
Yes.
Dick Delay,
No.
Curtis Snell,
No.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walking Stick,
No.
Kara Town Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Joe Bird.
No.
8 yes and 9 no.
Okay, motion to table fails. We're still on the Councilor Keener's motion. Any further discussion on his motion?
I will not, again, be supporting this amendment. And it's not, doesn't have a thing to do with the housing authority trying to hide behind state laws. That's ludicrous. The state laws are much more restrictive than the laws that we have here at Cherokee Nation. This goes to the very core that you do not mix a state government agency with Cherokee Nation laws. They have their own laws that they have to comply with. Now, she wants, or Council Lady Watts would like them to report. They have reported for years to us as a tribal council. Every month they report to us. We control them through a means of interaction with them already. We control them through who we put on to their board. If we send money, which right now we're not sending any money, then we use the mechanism called an MOU. And in that mechanism, we will tell them what rules apply to that money. But right now, they have their own money. And they're carrying out the will of this council by trying to build those 300 houses a year. So, folks, let's don't load them down with any more problems than we've already given them. That's an objective of building 300 houses a year is quite an objective using money that is not Cherokee Nation money. It belongs to them. So I would ask that we not include them in this Cherokee Nation Administrative Procedures Act. And when we get to some more of these folks that are included in this, I want to talk to you about those too.
I'll proceed to a vote on Councilor Keener's motion. This is a motion to add the Housing Authority to the list of agencies in the Administrative Procedures Act. A yes vote is to add the Housing Authority, a no vote is not to add. All those in favor of Councilor Keener's motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion fails. We're back to the main motion. Councilor Cowan Watts.
Call for the question.
Call for the question. All right, question's been called. Any further discussion on the motion?
Just to make sure Taro's not in here and Housing Authority's not in here. Is that correct?
I think Taro is in there, and if your request is directed to Councilor Cowan Watts, Taro is in your.
Yes, page 3, if you look at the portion in red and underline, it adds Cherokee Nation Tribal Employment Rights Office.
You have the floor, Madam Speaker.
Well, we just got direction from the AG's office that this wasn't a good idea to put Taro in here. So I'll be voting against the whole act, I guess.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Cowan Watts?
So just do note that on page 7, that it also creates an email alert system within 3 months so that people are able to sign up for automatic alerts to their inbox. And at the time that they are posted online at Cherokee.org to create more transparency.
Anything further? Ms. Barker-Hill?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify that the addition, and I'll yield to Councilor Watts if she wants to correct me, but the addition of Taro is one thing, but those notices don't necessarily connect to Taro. It's just an additional notice requirement that you want in the APA. So even if Taro is not there, she's still wanting the notice requirement in there. Yeah. Thank you.
Move to table
Motion.
until we can get clarification of what parts we need, what parts we don't need, et cetera. Give the counselor another month to work on this.
We have a motion to table. Second.
No. We voted on the amendment.
We voted on Councilman Keener's amendment. We're on the main motion. We have a motion to table. All those in favor of tabling to next month say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, the motion to table fails. All right, any further discussion on the main motion? Councilor, Madam Speaker.
I would like to offer a motion to delete the election commission. We're going to take that up later in another act, but we might as well just bring it up here. The election commission has asked to be removed from this particular act. They have their own rules over there. They are pretty well an autonomous commission that we don't want to interfere with. And their attorney is here if we should have questions about that, but I will put that in form of a motion to remove the election commission.
So you're talking about section 102A striking the election commission.
As an agency.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I second it.
Second. By Councilor Fulbright. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Coates?
I'm opposed to exempting the election commission from procedures of posting 10-day notices of their meetings and what really seem like some fairly benign things that really would assist the facilitation of an easier and open and more transparent process. Yes, this is an autonomous body, but that doesn't mean they're completely exempt from Cherokee law. Some laws are reasonable that they should come under, and to me, this is one of them. I have to say, I'm pretty mystified at the resistance of the election commission to complying with some things that just seem like, reasonable procedures for open meetings and for good processes and for transparency among the various agencies of our government, and they are one. So I'm opposed to the exemption.
Thank you, Councilor. Ms. Barker-Hill, did you have a comment?
Mr. Chair, the FOIA requirements for the open meeting will remain intact. That will not delete them from that requirement. They will still have to post their meetings and that sort of thing. So
The FOIA is, in fact, a separate statute.
Yes, it's a separate code provision statute. So that would not exempt them. Removing them from the APA would not remove them from the requirements of FOIA.
Very good. Councilor Conwatts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really beyond mystified, really kind of appalled. In 2011, a significant part of why our elections had so many difficulties was because the voters themselves, the public, our Cherokee Nation citizens, did not have meaningful input into the policies and procedures of the Tribal Election Commission. We're not asking for them to do something. This is not about content. It's about procedure and requiring them to be open about how they create those procedures and document those procedures. And to go further, it's a mystery what procedures they have. You have to dig right now to get their bylaws and their all the things that govern how they implement the actual election for one of our individual voters. And then if there's an issue with the voters, it's a mystery on how they are able to exert their rights as a voter and protect those rights. Had we had the Administrative Procedures Act implemented, and because the Constitution says you cannot retroactively do things, so you would think they would still be accountable for the past, 3 years or whatever it is that they should have been under the APA and have implemented it. regardless of what's passed out of this body at this point, to seemingly, I guess, save people work. I'm not quite sure what's going on. But if we remove this requirement of our election commission to make sure and be accountable to our voters, then we are definitely failing the Cherokee citizens, and we are looking for even more problems than what we saw in 2011. I think it's a travesty.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? I see that Mr. Chafin has risen. Do you have a comment, sir? Certainly.
Harvey Chafin, I'm attorney for the Election Commission. I was not the attorney for the last election, so I can't speak to the 4 years before. The commission, prior to the time I came on board, had prepared a proposed amendment to the Administrative Procedures Act by their prior attorney. We amended it slightly and presented it to the committee. The primary purpose of the Election Commission is to provide an independent election, an election free from bias and free from political influence from any faction. And I'm satisfied that the commission members you have now are dedicated to that purpose and that task. The Constitution, as you all are well aware, creates the commission. And it authorizes the council to enact laws not inconsistent with the Constitution to govern the conduct of the elections. You all have done that in the past. You have an election law that provides for that. That same election law also provides that the commission shall be an independent commission in the performance of its statutory duty and constitutional duties. And it shall not be subject to direction or supervision of any type or influence by the Executive Office or the Cherokee Nation Council. Now, the commission is not, they're not wanting to hide anything. They're going to be able to operate independently as the Constitution says they should be. I would like to point out that the Constitution and your legislative act provides that it is a commission. It's not an agency. The Administrative Procedures Act applies to agencies of the Cherokee Nation. You've got the same kind of issue with this commission as you have with the State of Oklahoma Housing Authority. It's not a council-created agency. It is a constitutionally created agency that should have the autonomy, as the Constitution says, to operate independently. I will recommend to them, and it's my belief that they will, that they are aware of the desire of council members and of other people to be able to have notice. They do have notice of their meetings. The meetings do post agendas 10 days before. Regular meetings, and 48 hours before the 24 hours before the special meetings. Those agenda items describe what's going to be discussed. The items that are going to be addressed at that issue are prepared previously, and they're available as a public record at the commission. They're not trying to hide anything. It's just that if you look at the Administrative Procedures Act, there's pages and pages and pages that are really very, very detailed and very burdensome in effect. The commission, in its bylaws and rules and regulations, currently has rules and regulations that provide for appeals, any action that the commission takes against the individual candidate, something like that. It provides for appeals, notice, provides due process and hearings. So I think what the commission is asking is that you recognize the constitutional authority of the commission and not put them into a category that they should not be put into. If again, it's very similar to the housing authority. The council appoints some of those commissioners. The executive branch appoints some of those. The control of the council over those, the commission, is by the appointment of its members. Once that happens, the commission should be allowed to operate autonomously as the Constitution provides. Does anyone have any questions that I might be able to answer?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Chapin? Councilor Lay, you were on my list. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chapin, how you doing today?
Fine, sir. Thank you.
I think some of the passion you might see, among some folks about the election commission, some of it, in my mind, is those special meetings that have, 2 days notice, you said? 48 hours notice?
Yeah, I think...
If you live in Tahlequah, you might be able to drive by and see that notice. If I'm 107 miles away from the house, trust me, I'll never know that they're having.
I believe. And
what's wrong with the 10-day notice? I'm just asking.
I'll give you an example.
Yes, sir.
We had our meeting, our prior meeting. And after that last regular meeting, just recently, as you may know, the Election Commission and all of its individual members in their official capacity got joined as defendants in the Friedman case. They still have not been served that action. If they do get served that action, then then there's an answer date due on August 6th. So we have called a special meeting of the commission to address that issue for August 31st.
And that's one of those, that's a real special meeting. Sometimes I have this feeling it's not a real special meeting, and some of our people have that feeling, and that's where you see some of the passion of these issues. And if you could pass it along, if they could post those 10 days as often as possible, I would greatly appreciate it.
Well, I would not advise them to have a special meeting unless there was a need for that special meeting. And I think also we need to look at the. If I remember, if I'm correct, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they accept request or list of people who want notice of the meetings and such, and if they have an email address, I think they have a policy of when that agenda is posted, emailing it to the people. And I believe they have that policy in place now for anyone that has requested that. And Ms. County may know if that's the case. Do you get copies?
I think
Sorry, it's been
Councilman Lane has the floor and the chairman has recognized me. So.
I'll put it back to you, Chairman. Thank you.
Councilor Conlon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and that is one part, and it is nice. I don't know how many, if they have a maximum number of people they could send it to, but I think we fail the Cherokee people when we don't post that actively on the website. We don't archive those on the website. We don't have the agendas on the website. Any documents, the bylaws, those kind of things are not on the website. The staff do a great job with what they're given and directed at, from what I can tell, including that email list you're referring to. It's worked for me. But I think we just really fall short if we have to make it very difficult to ask for the information that folks that are an hour or 2 hours away from Tahlequah need in order to be informed, intelligent Cherokee citizens engaged throughout the process. Because again, a lot of what I think happened when I look back at 2011 was not necessarily that we didn't have laws in place, we didn't have procedures in place that were understood, or maybe not procedures at all. And for a governing body, whether it's an independent election commission or this body, especially if you want the independent election commission to remain independent and not, laws adopted until it makes no sense, is that they have to also be accountable to the people. And I think that proactively putting those things on the website, archiving those things on the website, providing a way, video archive, even if it's not live, but video archive similar to our meetings, that's how critical the Election Commission is after we revisit the 2011 episodes.
Well, I might respond to that saying, I think that one of the things I've heard discussed with the commission is additional efforts to educate the public as to rights and as to procedures. So I think what you're saying there is certainly something that the commission should address, and I feel that they would address that, and they would look to educating the people as to what their rights are, what the procedures are. And I know also that they are going to soon, are working on now, new rules and regulations and new recommendations to the council to address some of the issues that came up in the election. Not only what the Carter Commission mentioned, but issues that they found also that they feel should be addressed by the council up the next election.
Anything further, Councilor, on Madam Speaker's motion?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. The motion on the floor is to strike Election Commission from the proposed legislation. All in favor of the motion to strike the Election Commission, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
Don Garvin,
No.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Gloria Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener,
No.
Dick Lay,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walkenstick,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
No.
Gil Anglin,
No.
Jack Baker,
No.
Joe Byrd,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley, yes, Janelle Fulbright.
Yes.
$11 yes and 6 no.
Okay. Motion is approved. Election Commission is struck from the legislation.
The Election Commission.
Election Commission. Yes, Councilor Fishinghawk?
I'd like to strike Terrell from the legislation. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion to strike Terrell from the legislation by Councilor Fishinghawk, second by Councilor Walkenstick. Any discussion on the motion?
I would just offer one thing, that we've heard that Terrell shouldn't be in here because it may conflict with something we already have in Terrell.
Correct.
And if we strike this language, what we're left with in the legislation are the enhanced reporting requirements, internet, email, et cetera. So Councilor Fishinghawk on page 3 would strike the Terrell from the proposed legislation. Any further discussion?
I withdraw my motion. I call for the question.
So you withdraw your...
The only thing left in there is Terrell, or is it?
No, we have some other items that are amended on page.
Okay.
Page for attention, page 7.
Okay. Just make it Terrell.
So you're not withdrawing your
No, I'm
motion?
not withdrawing.
All right, the motion's still on the floor. All those in favor of the motion to strike Terrell at page 3, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Gloria Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener,
No.
Dick Lay,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
None.
David Walkenstick?
Yes.
Karen Collin Watts?
No. I mean, yes, I'm sorry.
Are we on the main motion?
No.
Okay, Tara, yeah. That's that motion that Councilman Fishing Hawk, sorry. Okay, because I got confused after the call to question stuff. All right, no, thank you.
Bill England?
No.
Jack Baker?
No.
Joe Bird?
Yes.
Julia Coates?
No.
Jody Fishing Hawk?
Yes.
Aaron Fairley?
No.
Janelle Fulbright?
Yes.
Don Garvin?
No.
9 yes and 8 no.
All right. Well, without the original motion as amended. Question's been called. All those in favor of passage of the act say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Just for informational purposes, Councilor Watts, is the only changes now that apply to who remains to be, who remains under this rule is on page 7.
To my knowledge, that's the only ones that, I believe, our counselor, Diane Barker Harold, helped me with this, and that was, we would have.
The provisions on page 7 are for any agency that comes under the APA.
That's the
Councilor
only
Collin
amendments.
Watts wanted to make sure that there was more notices and transparency to the public about the activities of the APA. It's not necessarily tied to Taro, although she added Taro to that, so it was just all one piece of legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're moving right along. We're now at old business number 2. This is an act amending our sales tax code. Councilor Fishing Hawk?
This is one that Curtis had brought to us and wanted to work on. Him being a vet, I'm very proud of it. And what this will do is it adds exemptions for 100% permanently disabled veterans and for all veterans who are citizens of the Cherokee Nation. And I move for its approval.
Second. By acclamation.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Chairman, we have questions.
Oh.
I have a question.
My apologies. Councilor Fraley.
Can I direct this to Ms. Fishing Hawk?
Sir.
Jody, is there a particular reason why we limited it to Oklahoma National Guard? I mean, like if someone came into the casino from North Dakota and they're a member of the National Guard, could we just say National Guard? I mean, is there a particular reason why it's Oklahoma? Is that a friendly amendment? Is that a friendly amendment? I can make it one.
Okay, there's been a friendly amendment been accepted by by Councilor Fishing Hawk. Does your second, Councilor Byrd, accept? Councilor Byrd accepts. Any question on your part, Ms. Barker Harold?
That was
Okay, no issue on your part, Ms. Barker.
No, that's probably what I started thinking of. Oklahoma.
Very good, very good. All right, well, we have a friendly amendment. Any further discussion? Councilor Cowan Watts?
Thank you. I believe our tax commission is still here. I'm fully in support of this, but I want to do it with my eyes open. Do we know an economic impact?
Would you yield to Councilor Fishing Hawk? She may have some information on that, and certainly Ms. Webster as well.
Go right ahead, but I'm going to be real honest. I got asked that by a previous tribal council member. And to me, when I went and talked to some vets, and I had gotten some rough numbers from administration, it's going to be very minimal. I think it's the least we can do for our vets. I mean, we're talking less than, I got told, and maybe you can correct me, maybe $5,000 a year, and I think that is so insignificant compared to what our vets have given that
I really didn't even question it much. My family's all vets, and when I brought it up to them, they just kind of looked at me.
Councilor Con Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if that's the case, because the feedback I get from my veterans is the whole formula for what disability is and such is problematic and all the proof. So I didn't know why we would limit it to just 100% disabled veterans, because I think those that are 50% or more, in that there was like all of it.
This is all veterans
This is all
now.
veterans.
If it's all
Okay,
veterans
when I
now.
read it,
If
it's
I
like-
understand correctly, the 100%
It's for
disabled is
all.
already in the law.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So what you're doing is you're expanding that to say you're allowing this exemption to be for any veteran that is a Cherokee citizen.
Correct.
Am I correct? Okay. So in my understanding, I'm not sure what the implication will be on your sales tax revenue, because this doesn't just apply to your restaurants. It applies to the hotel. It applies to anywhere that there is sales tax. That includes your gift shops. That includes everything. So I'm not sure. I can't tell you what the impact of that is. My issue with this is, and I just want the council to be aware, and I have met with CNE, it's going to be an implementation issue, because they're going to have to be able to purchase the software. They can't just walk up and have a tax exemption key on their cash register. There's going to have to be documents that are provided. There's going to have to be documents that can be copied and kept in their files for their audits, for them to back up. They're going to have to write policies and procedures for this. So it's going to take a little time to get it implemented and make sure that we do that correctly.
But, you know, you've got a good point there, and I want to quote my dear tribal councilwoman over here. She said, Jody, do you know how few veterans that are men are going to actually bother to fill this out? Or is their wife going to fill them out like she's going to have to do afterwards?
That's what I'm saying. We're going to have to come up with some process and some kind of a ID or document that we can take, that can be copied, that can be put in a file, so that when they get audited and they say, who did you exempt, they can go to this file and say, these are the ones that we exempted, and this is our backup for that. So if they're standing in line for the buffet and they present their DD 214, there's going to have to be a copy made of that somewhere before they can proceed. And that exemption would only be good for the veteran and his immediate spouse or children, is my understanding. It can't be, if there's 10 people with them, that exemption's not good for all those 10 people. So there are going to have to be policies written and some things like that. So it's not going to be something that's just going to happen tomorrow. I just want to make sure that all of you understand that.
Councilor Con Watts, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess my lack of clarity comes with section C, where the other fees on page, I guess it's 2. If you read that, and I know there's a long list, and I get that this is just has to be structured that way in that sentence, but it says, or its successor to be in receipt of disability compensation at the 100% rate, and the disability shall be permanent and have sustained. So if it's supposed to waive those fees, the way I read the sentence, it's only for 100% disabled.
That's originally the way that it read, because that's the way the state's reads. The state only exempts.
Did we get something passed out that's different? Because all I have is what's in my book.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know what you have. Originally, the law just said that we copied the state's almost word for word. It was 100% disabled because that's the only thing that the state exempts. And they have a card that has to be applied for, and that card is issued to them, and it's disabled, 100% disabled, and that's what you use when you go in for those exemptions. As far as us expanding that to any veteran who is a tribal citizen, we will have to figure out what form of identification we'll have to use, which is probably their DD 214s. You veterans tell me I'm not a veteran. Would it be
I believe there's different cards. One says 100%, one says 80, one says 50, one says 20%. They've all got cards if they're disabled saying what percentage they are. That's what I believe.
But the state's tax exempt card is just 100%, I believe, for the sales tax exemption.
Yeah.
At least that's what the state told me.
I think there's a punctuation error or a conjunction. I mean, there is a problem with this paragraph. I just want to make sure we have it right for them so there's no confusion. I'm absolutely in support of this. I just want to make sure that
This should say.
You see what I'm saying? Okay.
Anything else, Councilor
Because
Tom Watts?
so can we fix this paragraph?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
We do have some other folks with questions. And the hour is short. I wonder if I could move to
Yeah,
Councilor Coates
thank
while
you.
that's my.
Mine is fundamentally the same question, I think. I'm unclear on
Okay.
what's intended here by the way it reads.
Okay, and I had some other councilors on the list. Councilor Walkingstick. I think Councilor Walkingstick was going to call the question. Councilor Fraley, do you have a question?
Mr. Chair, I'll hold my question, or she's researching something for me.
Madam Speaker?
I would move to table until next month, and we'll do a little, I think there needs to be a little more work done on it. So.
We have a motion table. I have a second by Councilor Hurst. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All the same sign. Table the next one. Okay, next item is old business item number 3. This is a discussion item by Councilor Lay. Councilor Lay?
I'd like to table it.
Table it for another month? Okay. Moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on down to new business. First item is a resolution confirming the nomination of Steve Wilson as a board member of the Cherokee Nation Tax Commission Board of Directors with me as sponsor. Is Mr. Wilson here today?
I second that.
Wilson here today, and I make that for the motion. Councilor Bird seconds. Mr. Wilson, do you want to come forward? First off, Mr. Wilson, pleased that you're here and that you're taking on this. Yes.
Did you make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I made a motion and he made a second.
As chair?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Well, we have a motion target. Boy, it's been a rough day, guys. All right, Mr. Wilson, do you have anything to share with us today?
Well, I'll start out telling you a little something about myself. I'm a Cherokee citizen to start with. I got a bachelor's degree from Northeastern. I've got several businesses I operate now. I own and operate S&T Rentals, also Wilson Land Development. Wilson Land Development, we do developing and build houses. Also in the cattle business and the horse business. So I'm familiar with all aspects of different businesses, different tactics. So.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Wilson? Okay. Councilor Count Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And could you tell me about your desire to be on the tax commission, your understanding of the role?
Well, I've been active before with Cherokee Nation. I taught school at Squangle here for 3 years. And I've always been active with Cherokee people, so I'd like to stay active.
Oh, so is there anything in particular to the tax commission and this role that you're being nominated for today?
Not that I know of. I mean, just, interest in the people.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further, Councilor?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Coates?
Just to be clear, in your land development, do you have any construction projects at this time that are related to the Cherokee Nation, its businesses, anything like that?
No, we build larger homes. My development I have right now, we still have some lots left in it. It is Greystone Development across towards Cherry Springs.
The golf course at Cherry Springs?
Yeah, we're right across the road from it.
You're right across, but you're not involved with
not
construction project?
No,
Okay.
no.
And likewise, in your rental and leasing corporation, do you have any business or professional relationships with any of the elected officials of the Cherokee Nation businesses or its boards?
No, we rent to Cherokee people. And of course, we get, if they qualify to the agency, we get checks from them. That's all we do.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Mr. Wilson? All right, if none, we'll proceed to a vote on the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Mr. Keener? Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you. All right, item number 2 is a resolution confirming the nomination of Ruth Ann Weaver as a member of the Cherokee Nation Gaming Commission. Now I would entertain a motion rather than try to make it. Madam Speaker's made the motion. Council Burgess makes the second. Ms. Weaver, I know you're here somewhere. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, Ms. Weaver, and appreciate your willingness to serve. Would you share some thoughts with us?
Certainly. I was born and reared in Rogers County, attended school there, attended Northeastern State University. I did not graduate. I spent 27 years with Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, and then I retired from there. Hadn't got enough telephone experience, I thought, so I went to work for WorldCom in Tulsa for 9 years, and since that time I have been totally retired. Been a lifelong member of the Cherokee Nation. My family name is Bacon. My granddad was born at Skunk Hollow at Muskogee and was a bootlegger in Rogers County.
That qualifies.
And that's the truth.
The bootlegging has stopped years ago, though.
Oh, yeah. My dad was a cop, so.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver. Any questions for Ms. Weaver? Councilor Campbell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Weaver, can you tell me more about your desire to be on the Gaming Commission and your qualifications for it? And your understanding of the role as well.
I have no understanding other than the information that I have been given that I have read. I know what the mission of the Gaming Commission is. I have always wanted to serve the Cherokee people, and I was asked to serve in that capacity, and that's what I will do.
May I continue?
Yes, Councilor.
So if a personnel matter or a vendor matter where you might have a potential conflict of interest because you have personal knowledge of those folks or business relationships came up and you had to vote on it, would you excuse yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you would be very comfortable if there had to be an adverse opinion against an individual concerning their gaming license or even a jackpot that may have come out and questioned?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keener?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ruth Ann, what's your position on gaming outside of the casinos? Internet gaming or?
No, I don't do that.
You wouldn't support that?
Well, I don't know because I don't know what the details are. I have to make an educated guess after I've learned all the facts.
About gaming in other places, in other venues, boat shops, etc.
By the same token, I'd have to have some information before I could make a judgment.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Garland?
Have you been in the Hard Rock Casino?
3 times.
What reason?
Once I had lunch with, that's not true. I've been there more than that. I've been to the Cherokee Art Market several times. I was there once to have lunch with a friend of mine, and I was at the broadband kickoff breakfast the other morning. But I've never spent any money in machines. I had to work for mine, man, so I don't put them in that machine.
You couldn't make any profit then?
No, I have not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions for Ms. Weaver? Hearing no one, proceed to a vote on the, to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walker
Yes.
Smith, Sarah Cowan Watts,
Abstain.
Bill England, Jack Baker,
Yes.
Joe Berg,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Jody Fishingham,
Yes.
Meredith Furley,
Yes.
Mel Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Gloria Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener,
No.
Dick Lay,
Yes, and please add me.
Curtis Snell.
Yes.
Thirteen yes, 2 no, and 2 abstentions.
Could, would it be possible that I also be added as a sponsor?
Certainly, we're adding Councilor Lay, Councilor Fishhock, and Madam Speaker as sponsors, and Councilor Fulbright. Very good, thank you. All right, we're now at new business item number 3. Madam Speaker.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think by deleting them from the act that's moving forward of Counselor Watts, I am not sure that we need to move forward with this now.
We want to get advice of our council before we proceed with
Yes.
tabling or withdrawing the matter.
Yes. I apologize. We have deleted the election commission in the prior, that motion carried.
And our Constitution requires signature of the chief and full council to be law.
Well,
So,
I'm assuming I would let it go through the process, and if it passed, then we would not do this. So what I'll do is I will table it for 1 month.
Very good. We have a motion to table. Second by Councilor Byrd. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
It's tabled to next month. A couple of additions to the agenda. New business item number 5 is Councilor Lay's legislation. And Councilor Lay?
Number 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Where are we now? Oh, I apologize. Yes. No 4. How could I forget? Councilor Karen Watts, first of all, let me preface it by apologizing to you, Councilor Karen Watts. I had intended to get some questions to our agencies to kind of test the compliance with the APA. I didn't get that done. I apologize to you. I said that I would. And if we continue this discussion on, I certainly still committed to doing that. But anyway, I'm impressed.
and Mr. Chairman, I think our Constitution speaks to it very clearly that all these agencies, regardless if they're removed going forward in the future, they are still past their deadlines for compliance and should be compliant up to that point. We can't retroactively just remove this requirement that has been on the books, and they've been asked. We've been spending, I think, 6 months in this body trying to get compliance. They should be accountable to the Cherokee people.
Well, we've invited each of the departments here that are under the current act. Nothing's been changed in the law right now. The law is as it is. And we've invited them there. And so, Councilor, we know we have representatives here. Do we want to call them up one by one and get their presentation?
Yes,
and I
please.
would just yield to you to pick which agency is up first.
The order on the agenda is the Election Commission, then the Environmental Protection Commission, then the Gaming Commission, and the Tax Commission.
Representative from the Election Commission.
I can understand what you're asking. And of course, I'll say it, I haven't been there before, but I will look at the existing law, and what the commission has done. I don't know what they have done. And we'll be happy to report to you what the commission's position is. There is one issue that I know that prior council, I haven't researched this, the prior council has divided the commission that the Administrative Procedures Act does not apply to him because of the constitutional provision, that act is unconstitutional. As I say, I haven't researched that. I know that has been, they have a previous opinion from prior counsel to that effect. Let's say what I will advise the commission, I'll look at it. We will put it on the agenda at the next regular meeting, where I'll recommend we do that and address that issue that you've raised.
And I hope you appreciate my frustration because this has been ongoing and that same commitment's been made for like 6 months now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And
Thank you, Councilor.
I'm not a commissioner, I can only recommend. I would recommend it be addressed with them, that they and give the council their position, what they can do.
Mr. Chairman, you
Yes,
and I had talked about the commitment to try to have people answer to this body so that it's on public record for our citizens. Do you recommend how, I mean, because I seem to be this whole thing seems to be putting off. I mean, it's like just kicking the ball or kicking the can down the road and it's never going to get responded to.
Well, with respect to the Election Commission, they've just gotten their counsel signed, and this is an issue that I think requires legal counsel. And so, from the Election Commission standpoint, it did take a while to get their counsel selected, but that is a process that takes a while. So, I guess I'd suggest that it's been a while since we started asking this question, but it hasn't been too long since Mr. Chafin's been on the job. So, let's give him an
So
opportunity.
can we get a written report in 10 days to the council so that it's prior to the meeting, or do you have some recommendations?
My suggestion is I assume we'll continue this into the next month, and if we do, then Mr. Chafin can report back next time. That's my feeling on it.
I think that would be agreeable with that recommendation.
Is that satisfactory, Councilor?
No, because this body is effectively trying to remove any requirements even to that. So you're going to promise this in this meeting, and then you're going to repeal that portion of the law so that he won't have to answer in a month. And I find that problematic for our people.
As I say, I will only recommend the commission address it and report back to the commission, to the council.
Our attorney general has risen.
Has risen. Well, and I appreciate your concern. I've been Attorney General for the last 6 months. We've had the Administrative Procedure Act for years. You've been a counselor for 8 years. I appreciate your newfound concern on making sure that the previous acts haven't been complied with. I, as Attorney General, will look back at past non-performance under the APA, under the Smith administration, and under other previous directors, and if there is some penalties to be paid for past sins, we'll go at it. Thanks.
Anything further on the Election Commission? And if others have, Councilor Walker, did you have a question on the Election Commission compliance with the APA?
Yeah. My question is I'm new to this council, but why haven't we settled this 4 years ago, not in the last 6 months? That's my question. Like, why are we just not getting to this?
I think that would be our question too.
Thank you.
All right. Anything further on the Election Commission compliance with the APA? Councilor Cowan-Watts, the next entity is the Environmental Protection Commission, and I believe we have a representative here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Evans.
Any questions, or should I just say how we comply with the APA or not comply with the APA? I believe we do. I've got a couple examples of when we've passed rules and the notice that went out to the Cherokee people. I know we had prior rules before the APA, and then those were brought up under the APA, and that notice went out. This was when I was not an administrator, but it was still done. And then we had a public water supply rule that went out that was done later then too. And then I believe we've had a major modification to a permit, and that went out and was under the APA as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Council.
Thank you. Tom, how do we archive that information, and how do we talk, do we have a documented process flow on the website for public input and
Oh, yes,
such,
ma'am.
and all that?
And we have-
Because that wasn't provided in the memo when we asked
Oh,
for
it was
this.
not, okay.
It was, I think the memo is fairly brief.
I imagine it was, yes, ma'am.
So if you have a bunch of stuff in front of you, is it something, I'd hoped I had this information emailed prior to the meeting so we could.
I think it was just a matter of not knowing exactly what you want. We didn't want to send you a book. Certainly, we can give you any of the process that we do it, outline that. We can give you examples of it, whatever you'd like, certainly.
Because the Gaming Commission had a nice package and they had the process outlined.
They're real good about that.
Yeah, and it was all archived, as the APA indicates, so that people could see over time how rules were developed and what the public input comments were, so that those were archived as well.
Sadly, we've not had public input on most things, especially rules. We've had absolutely none, and it isn't because we haven't tried to get that input. We just to date have not had as much public input on things like that.
And you go through the public notice
Oh, yes,
portion of
ma'am.
the website?
Certainly, just like we do for meeting notices. Same thing, certainly.
I don't think a lot of that was included in the memos.
Okay. I can
From your office,
enhance
so you
that
know.
however you like.
Would you please put it all down so that we
Certainly,
understand
certainly.
it? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any questions for the Environmental Protection Commission on APA compliance? Councilor Fishing-Ock, you had your hand up earlier and I failed to call on you. Do you have anything?
I don't know what I was going to ask you to respond, but I think he's left, because like you all said, in the previous, since '07, we've been out of compliance. So who's been responsible for this since '07? And I didn't mean him, I just meant the question in general to the attorney.
I guess we'll find out.
Because he was talking about fines and holding somebody responsible. And I just didn't know how you get it out of the past administration if you're no longer in office.
I guess we'll find out. Representative from the Gaming Commission?
I know why Jamie's not here. I think we follow our public notices very well. We do have a process that we put in place as soon as the APA came out. I did try to, in the very beginning, contact the person that sponsored it, and that person is no longer here, so some of the things that are in there, we didn't know what the intent was. But I would like to, since Jamie's not here, I can do this. I would like to make a couple of suggestions on the public notice format that we have. The current public notice in the Cherokee Nation website is everything. I mean, you have to search through there. It's not very user-friendly. There's no dates on there. But for instance, the last thing that I posted on surveillance, I could look at that and I couldn't tell, I could only tell maybe what year it was posted in. I have no idea what month it was or what date it was. Those things used to be on that website, and I think those things are very crucial. And in that direction, maybe some of the things that are years old that particularly didn't pertain to, I wouldn't say anything of non-importance, but just public announcements rather than notices. Maybe those things should be archived. And I would go even further and have a separate place under public notices that are just for boards and commissions. And that would make it user-friendly. And I think that that would be very important, and it would certainly help us. Is there any questions anybody has?
Councilor Crown Watts?
Thank you. Yeah, in the Gaming Commission, remember Jamie has provided a nice package which showed that you guys were in compliance. Okay, thank you. So what I heard you say was everything is lumped together. It's not separate. There's no dates. Separate. So the boards and commissions need to be separated out by individual boards and commissions, so they can go to, let's say, the Gaming Commission and see all those activities by month, date, year.
Well, I mean, they could do that, but the whole structure right now is just public notices, it's announcements, and it's just a collage of information in there.
Right, so I'm trying to take actionables away, and I want to make sure I hear you
Right.
correctly.
What I think would really help is when you click on that and it opens up, it should be all the collage over here and boards and commissions over here. So that it just filters down and makes it a little bit easier for the public to find where they're going.
Okay.
Because right now, I can click on something and I cannot tell you at all when that may have been even posted on the website. So how do you know when something is new? I did like the part about the announcements, you know, doing some kind of little tag or email or something like that. But would really help if somebody is looking, particularly if they're looking for something old or something that happened last year or 2 months ago, is if they had that date in that webpage, when was it posted?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Very good. All right, well, we've heard from the, oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. What's that? Did you have a question? All right. Okay. No, Ms. Webster.
Good afternoon. I do believe that the tax commission does comply. We do post everything, and I had sent a report previous. I did bring another, just a little simple that gives the process that we go through. I brought copies if anybody wants those. But we do post our meeting agendas. We post any legislation for the 30-day comment period. And just like the gaming commissions, it does fall out there under that public notice in that large area. But we do post all of our agendas. We post our minutes. We post any type of legislation or rules that's out there for comment. So everything is being posted there. Plus, we also post it at the tax commission as far as the agendas and the meeting notices.
Thank you, Ms. Webster. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Now we will move to Councilor Lay's item number 5.
And Counselor stole my ink pen. Oh, here she is. Okay. Okay. An act to require certain tribal positions of authority to be enrolled citizens of the Cherokee Nation. I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
A motion by Councilor Lay, a second by Councilor Cowan Watson. Discussion. Councilor Cowan Watson.
Will this become effective immediately? How will this work?
It would appear to me that it has an emergency clause, so the emergency
So
clause
if
says
they
it-
have an existing contract, they can't automatically renew, or will it interrupt their existing contract?
I don't know the answer to that question, but perhaps the Attorney General can speak to that.
I'm going to reserve my opinions to see what comes out of it.
Very good, very good. Anything else, Councilor Cowan Watson?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, Councilor Fulbright?
I've got some concerns with this, simply because of all the people that are already in place. We do have a new chief, and I'm sure that he picked what he thought was the best and brightest for his position. He only wanted the finest, and maybe, I'm hoping he'll transition over to more Cherokees, but I think we need to give him the benefit of the doubt on the leeway of the key people that he has picked. I can't support this in the form that it's in.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion on the act? Councilor Briggs?
I agree with Councilor Fulbright. I think we need to give the chief, whether it's Chief Baker or whomever, the leeway to choose who they are most comfortable with and have the most confidence in. And we hope, of course, that they look at Cherokees first, but I won't be supporting this today.
Councilor Coates?
We've had comments several times today about legislation not being retroactive, and so I guess that my question would be that even if we did pass this today, would it apply to the people who have already been employed in these positions?
I have a real question about whether it applies to renewals of contracts, employment contracts. I don't know the answer to the question, but it is a question that I have. I just don't know the answer to it.
Can we get a response to that question, or is there anybody that
I don't
could
know.
offer additional opinions?
Ms. Parker Harold.
And I didn't mean to be flippant. I really didn't. But, you know, what I want to do is what comes out of this committee, what comes out of full council, I'm sure I'm going to get an opinion on. And so it'd be premature for me to comment on the constitutionality or the fallacy of the act until I see what actually comes out. So.
Well, I think your opinion, if I may, I think your opinion might weigh in terms of some of us as to whether, you know, they would go ahead with this for the future, not, you know, I mean, by not offering an opinion, I mean, that in itself also sort of sways the vote, I guess is what I'm trying
And with
to
that
say.
being said, and again, this is
including mine.
These are the beliefs that I have. You know, at the very beginning, there is a prohibition against retroactivity in any law. So therefore, you know, one argument is that the people who are currently there are grandfathered in. Also, I have some grave concerns about the constitutionality of the act of the separation of powers of the legislative branch telling the executive branch how and who they should, you know, they can hire. But in that regard, again, I'm holding root. You know, those are issues that just pop up in my concern from the get-go. So I will see what comes out.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Councilor Coates, anything else?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Lay, I had you next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I heard the term constitutional problems. And I looked at those, and I thought about them, and here's where I'm coming from. All of these people live in the executive branch of offices right next to the chief. All of them work every day, every hour, every minute with the chief and all of the constitutional officers. All of them have a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, they have a closer relationship with the chief than we do. Much closer. Every day, every minute. They step right around the corner, talk to the chief. They step right around the corner, talk to Charles Ed. Every day. And I know these are not constitutional positions. Every constitutional position says Cherokee. These guys and gals are just as close as those constitutional positions. And I may be, you know, getting a little, I understand that, you know, I'm passionate about this and probably some other people are also. But my common sense tells me that, you know, they should be also Cherokee. And in fact, I was told at one time, we're going to use these people until we can rotate some Cherokees in. And I think that's time. I think that's time has come, and that's where I'm at. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Walkingston.
I like this act, this for the fact that it's showing confidence in our Cherokee people, and I don't think we limit each other. We don't limit the chief, but I think we raise the bar for our Cherokee people and what they can achieve. Working at C&E when I was working in carpentry, one of the biggest gripes was the people up top administration were not Cherokee. And down on the floor, you've seen Cherokee cleaning the machines. I'm very passionate to see Cherokee people in leadership positions. And I would even make a friendly amendment that we even put our CEO. Then everyone, the thing that comes to our mind is, okay, we're limiting the administration and leadership. But we're putting confidence in our people. We do have qualified Cherokee people, and we do need to give them an opportunity to be in our leadership. So I like to make a friendly amendment to this act. It's up to Ms. Lay that we even put our CEO in this act.
Mr. Lay, do you accept the friendly amendment?
And that's CEO of CMB.
Yeah, not unless they don't split it. Is it CEO, CMB, or CMB?
Okay. I'm going to accept this friendly amendment unless Ms. Harrell cautions me otherwise. She helped me write this, and she's still in the right.
I'll get her.
Okay. Does your second accept, Councilor? Councilor Crown Watts, were you the second?
Yes.
Do you accept?
Absolutely.
And it is pending the guidance? Okay.
Thank you.
May I ask a question while we're waiting? If it is enacted today, would it be challenged on constitutionality by the Attorney General's office?
It's, like I said, you've heard my grave constitutional concerns, and I believe that they're out there. Let me see what passes out, May I suggest that you make that, we don't, I don't believe it is incumbent for the legislature to tell the executive how and who he should hire. Likewise, we're not going to propose a law that you have this same requirement in your branch, that you require all your employees to be Cherokee. That's not that's the definition of separation of powers.
Chairman,
We have a friendly amendment, Councilor Lay. Did you need some guidance from Ms. Parker Harold?
First of all, I'd like to answer the general. On this list, you don't see every employee of the Cherokee Nation. You see those people who are daily associated with the principal chief.
Right.
So come on, give me a little slack here. I'm not saying that we have to only have Cherokee Nation people employed.
You're director of finance for the Cherokee Nation, for the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council.
Yeah.
It's not a tribal member.
I understand.
I mean, and he's in, daily contact with you. But we give you the respect to hire who you want to hire. And I would just ask him for the same respect.
Okay. Do you agree with me that these people are in daily and hourly and minute contact with the principal chief?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's all. Thank you. Ms. Parker Harold, I've got a friendly amendment to include the CEO of CMB. Do you see a problem with that, other than the problems that the Attorney General? I'm ready to accept it unless you give me dire warning.
Well, that's not something I was prepared to address, knowing that there are other issues about the CEO of CMB. I was at a CMB meeting yesterday. They said they had over 200 applicants, but only 10 were Cherokee, 12, 15, 8 were Cherokee. That is a very highly qualified position. We may not always find an individual that's a Cherokee Nation citizen that meets those requirements. I don't know. We have a large population that I wouldn't know the answer to that.
Yeah, my question is how can we
But that is something I think that this body should seriously consider. Also, looking at the corporate purposes of the corporation and the way corporations are ruling or that operate, so that there is a corporate veil to protect this body's liability on certain decisions. But there is a constitutional concern about this particular provision because of separation of powers, and it's very clear in the Cherokee Nation Constitution that the chief, the principal chief, does have, there's nothing in this Constitution shall be construed as preventing the principal chief from employing such administrative assistance as deemed proper. And administrative assistance could be expanded to any type of employment person or contract person. So that would be a person that would assist him in doing his job or her job. So there are some constitutional provisions about this particular thing, but also some corporate issues about who runs the corporation and the ruling, how that would work as well.
Councilor Lay, do you accept it friendly based on?
I'm going to accept it friendly. Thank you.
Okay, so the legislation's been amended to include, I guess, at point E, a new point E, the CEO of CMB. Any further discussion on the motion? Madam Speaker? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Fishinghawk.
No, go ahead. I know everyone is passionate about this issue, and Dick and I have had several conversations about it. I'm just not yet ready to make the leap to tell the chief who he hires for his staff. So because of that, and because I still am very leery of getting over into CMB's business, because we just put a board in place that has 10 members that came before this body. And now it's in their hands, and it is their duty and their job to select a successor CEO. They have asked on y'all's behalf for me to be on that search committee. And as of yesterday, we had 225 applications, but I believe we only had 8 that were Cherokee. And you've got the added factor, we may offer it to a person of Cherokee descent. They may say, we can't come to the table on the money. So there's a whole lot of factors that go into picking a CEO. Yes, we want every job that we can get to be Cherokee. But sometimes you've got to factor in, will we have Cherokees of that caliber that will come to work for us for the money that we can pay them? And I am just not for telling another branch of the government, this is who you can hire and this is who you can't hire. I don't want them coming over in our house and telling us who we can hire and who we can't hire. And I don't really want to go over in their house and tell them. I don't really want to go to the courthouse and tell the court who they can hire as their clerks or who they can hire as their paralegals. So I respectfully to Dick, because we have had these conversations before, and I wanted to get it on the agenda, and I promised Dick that I would vote for that, but I'm just unable to do the next step, Dick.
Mr. Fishy,
Dick, I want to vote with you because I'm as much as passionate as you, but I do got a couple of questions. Can the AG tell me who occupies these positions now?
What are the positions?
Executive Director of Communications.
Would be Jim Gray.
He's doing, okay. Government Relations.
Jim Gray.
He doing both of them?
Yes, we're good at.
Okay. Chief of Staff would be
Chuck Hofton Sr.
And the General Counsel?
General Counsel is Kevin Free.
Okay. Well, Dick, I'm going to vote with you on it because I'm as passionate as you are about putting our Cherokees in there. I hated it. We're treading over into the administration's bailiwick, but
Understand?
I don't think it's unconstitutional. And I'm going to be for it, Dick.
Councilor Fraley.
Dick, I applaud you for it and understand the merits of what you're trying to accomplish. But from a legal standpoint, I think we're overreaching when we tell the executive branch how to run their operations. And I really am concerned when we get involved in our businesses. When I worked at CNI, one of the toughest challenges we had was gaining trust of the people that we marketed to, because they had a lack of trust for Indian tribes that were regulated by their tribal council. I'll be voting against it, not because I don't agree with a lot of what you're trying to do, but just from a legal standpoint, I think that we're overreaching on this.
Wait. I wasn't calling with you. I'm just kidding. I have you down on my list.
Okay.
I had Councilor Fulbright next.
Thank you. I agree with you to a certain extent in theory, but when I look at it as to our own selves and our CPA that we have most confidence in, that manages all of our things that we go to, is not a Cherokee citizen. And another example that I have is, for example, the person that has been filling in as the interim CEO is not a Cherokee and been doing, in my opinion, a very, very excellent job. And I just don't want to limit this in any way. I am in support of Cherokees being promoted into key positions, and if they're qualified, so be it, above others. Cherokee preference, but I don't think we need to be telling the chief who he needs to pick. And obviously, he's already picked his general counsel, who is not a Cherokee citizen, and we all very well know it, and maybe one of these other people also. And I know we all feel passionately about it, but I feel like it's kind of a slap in the face to the chief when we already know that he has some key positions here who are non-Cherokee. And he picked who he thought was best at the time, and I feel like what he's told me too. As time goes by, he'll probably transition into all Cherokee people in his key positions. But I just can't support it, but generally I do agree with you, but can't this time I agree.
Thank you, Councilor. I've got Councilor Garvin, Councilor Coates, and Councilor Walking-Stick left.
Well, mine's a short question
Councilor
to Todd. Todd, you named over 5 people. What tribes do they belong to?
I believe that.
Name them and what tribe?
Ms. Kevin Free is a Choctaw citizen. Mr. Gray is an Osage citizen. Chuck Hoskins Sr. is a Cherokee. So we're all tribal, but 2 of them are from are different tribes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Garvin. Councilor Coates. Thank you. Councilor Walking-Stick.
I agree. Doug Evans and Sean Slayton are great administrators and do a fantabulous job. But I like to set a precedence in the future that we do just hire Cherokees in these positions. Kind of let them be grandfathered in, and then next go around, let's get Cherokee in there. So that's all I would say.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Conwatts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not clear to me that this will affect our existing staff, but I do think we need to strive for that going forward. And it's hard for me to believe that we can pass a more stringent tarot law and make sure that our government complies with it, but we can't draw the line for some key positions. And somehow the one is constitutional, and then this next step, going just a little bit further for key positions, would not be constitutional. So I applaud Councilman Lay's efforts, and I will be supporting that today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fishing Pond.
Did we get an answer on the retroactive?
Well, the question, and Ms. Barker-Harold was not here, was whether A, could be retroactive. I think the answer is no. Number 2 is if there's a renewal of an employment agreement, suppose 3 months down the road, would that contract could not be renewed if it was with a non-citizen. And that's one of the issues we have that I think kind of hang over this discussion that's not resolved. And Councilor Byrd, you speak to that.
I applaud Councilman Lay's proposal as well. I think if you go back and check my administration when I was in office, the percentage of tribal members that we hired at Catoosa and these other places was extremely high. And we have been fortunate to have non-tribal members want to come and work for us. And we had the same discussion yesterday in our board meeting there in CNB that we were working with Diane Kelly to train some of our tribal members that are not yet qualified for certain positions there, and I think we will get to that point. But I don't ever remember having 100% employment at Cherokee Nation during all the time I've been with them. Maybe our highest point may have been when we were in Wiley Hall when we had 150 employees. So if we could get that retro answer in the contracts, I would support this. But I don't want to harm the people that are currently employed with us that are non-tribal members that have been with us for some time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Ms. Barker-Harold, can you speak to whether a contract renewal that comes up after this act passes, if it passes, whether that would be effective? Effectively could be no contract renewal? And I know I put you on the spot, so.
I don't know what Mr. Henry would say, but if you have a bunch of lawyers in the room, they're all going to have different opinions. So
That's job security.
We've got 4 or 5 in here right now, but there is a constitutional provision that prohibits retroactivity in any kind of legislation that is passed by this body. However, if a contract renewal, it would have to, it would just, I think my answer is it depends, which is generally a good answer for a lawyer, but it depends on what the contract, the content of the contract says. It could be that a renewal, maybe if the contract completely ends, then you're doing a new contract, that would be one thing, but if there's something in the contract that allows for a continuation of the same employment, then it probably wouldn't apply to that. It just depends on the language within the contract, and every contract is different. So I don't think that there's a definitive answer that we can say, because I think it would depend on what is involved in the content of each contract, each employment contract. And I would certainly defer to my colleague, the Attorney General.
Councilman Lay, you want to wrap things up?
Yeah, I'll try to. First of all, I understand that those of you who don't want to vote for this, we're still good, everybody. I talked to this about this with the chief of staff, with the speaker, and probably half this council at one time or another. And it's the other day when Joe Bird was talking about, we were at CMB, the vice president of IT came and gave us a talk, said he hired 52% Cherokee. And what he said was, we can't find enough qualified Cherokee folks, so we have to hire non-Indian. And you have no idea, I mean, I didn't jump up and shout, but I had to sit there and listen to a man say that. And so when we say we can't find qualified Cherokees for this job, that's silly. They're out there. We all know they're out. Probably half of this council is qualified for these positions out there. And so the chief knows where I'm coming from. I'm not mad at the chief. I'm still Bill John Baker's supporter, but I'm still going to put this up for a vote. Thank you.
All right, this is an act. We'll take a roll call. Call the roll.
Ed Walkenstead?
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts?
Yes.
Bill England?
Yes.
Jack Baker?
Yes.
Joe Bird?
Yes.
Julia Coates?
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk?
Yes.
Meredith Fraley?
No.
Janelle Fulbright?
No.
Don Marvin?
Yes.
Frankie Harkis?
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.?
No.
China Gloria Jordan?
No.
Lee Keener?
Yes.
Dick Lay?
Yes.
Curtis Snell?
No.
David Thornton?
Yes.
$11 yes and 6 no.
Councilor Thornton,
Yes.
last but not least is your legislation.
I guess I'll put this piece of legislation on the chopping block here. Okay, this is an act to provide for additional oversight to Cherokee Nation business by the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council and declaring an emergency. The purpose of this act is for the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council to have oversight and final approval of hiring decisions regarding the CEO of Cherokee Nation businesses and the contract that is proposed for that position. I'll make a motion to accept this act.
Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilor Fishinghawk. Okay, any discussion?
I'm just surprised we don't already have this in play, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any further discussion? Councilor Garvin?
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment that says that, and also the right to terminate the contract.
Right.
I'll pass this around the contract.
Right now, I probably won't accept that friendly amendment because I think in the future, We very possibly could put that amendment in there. Can I go? Yes, but at the moment, I'm not. I can accept it. I want to accept it. I'm not saying that I don't want to. I'm just saying I'm not going to right now.
Mr.
Anything
Chairman,
further, Mr. Garvin?
I'd like to withdraw that.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay.
I'd like to say a word or two.
Yeah, that's.
Would that be all right? Folks, I've started this, and I started it because of the Shareholders Act. Thank you, Bill. And the Shareholders Act actually put us within the corporate veil. And if you think we're piercing the corporate veil, I've got an old boy that's a very, very smart corporate lawyer that transpired to me that in no way you're piercing the corporate veil. And so I wanted to kind of get that into action because I want to talk about corporate people. And the corporate acts and where this actually come from was from Roman law. And that's been back quite a ways. But the British actually brought this in here, didn't they? To the United States. And the corporate law is what we're going by and going traveling by. But the type of corporate law that we have is it's a closely held corporation. It's with shareholders of less than like 15 to 35 shareholders. And the sale and transfers of shares are restricted. And the vast majority of corporations are closely held. And one of the things that I wanted to let you know about shareholders, and I'm reading this right out of shareholders on corporate law. Almost among these rights, foremost among these rights is the power to vote. Shareholders vote to elect and remove directors, to change or add to the bylaws, to ratify, approve after the fact, directors' actions where the bylaws require shareholders approve. The same number of shares needed to elect the director normally is required to remove a director. Usually without the proof of cause, such as fraud or abuse or of authority. And that fraud and abuse of authority, people, fall under this piercing the veil, corporate veil. You're under that piercing corporate veil as a shareholder. And right now we haven't come forward and brought our procedures together. And I would like to ask our chair here to bring forward a subcommittee that would put that together. And I'd also like to ask him to bring forward the same subcommittee to go over the Cherokee Nation Corporate Act. But that's between him and me, I guess. But when you talk piercing the veil, as I said, you have to get engaged in fraud. And this is the main reason that I brought forth the Shareholders Act. And what it is, it's another checklist. And it's a checklist on the businesses of the Cherokee Nation. I wish this would have been in effect about 12 years ago. But it wasn't. and there's no sense going back to what wasn't. So I'm proud of this, and I hope that you all are for it, and I hope that you support it and sponsor it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton, and I had Councilor Cowan Watts next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe in your intent, but because it falls short of us being able to really exercise, let me rephrase this. So this gives the appearance that we have somehow have control or influence, and most importantly, knowledge. I understand one of our councilwomen here at the table was kicked out of a CNB board meeting yesterday where additional information would have been provided. We're still not getting, I've been trying to be kicked out twice. There's no monthly updates from the advisory board members to give us any details. So this would effectively give the appearance to the public that we somehow have appropriate knowledge and influence on hiring the CEO, but it doesn't give us full access and rights to understanding what really goes on a day-to-day basis. If we can't even attend those board meetings and executive session at board meetings. So until those issues are resolved, I can't support this as it's written. But I do agree with your intent, and I applaud you on that, Councilman Thornton. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I had Councilor Walking Stick next.
That's a call for the question.
Okay, I would give the sponsor an opportunity to rebut what the council said.
My only rebuttal is that we've got to put in place some type of policies and procedures for just exactly what you're talking about. And that's the reason we need this subcommittee made up and bring it forward. Because we've been sitting here waiting, and this act for Shareholders Act has never even been brought forward to CMB. Now that's ridiculous. And that's a violation of the Constitution, if you want to violate the Constitution, for that not to already be brought forward, if you want to check into it. But the reason is because I'd like to set this up so we do have a way to go in and put procedures in here that will help the nation, help CMB. CMB's position as a CEO, our CEOs, is probably the most important position right now within the Cherokee Nation as far as the funding is concerned. Because I think we're just about getting more funding from CMB right now than we are from the federal government. And if we can't control that and find out and hire someone that we think would make a good CEO out there, as a shareholder, it's your duty to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All right. This is an act, so we'll proceed to a roll call.
Lee Keener,
Yes.
Dick Lay,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walking Stick,
Yes.
Karen Cowan Watts,
No.
Gil England,
No.
Jack Baker,
No.
Joe Bird,
Yes.
Julia Coates, Jody Fishing Hawks,
Yes.
Curtis Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright, Ron Garvin,
Yes.
Frankie Hargis,
No.
Chuck Huskin Jr.,
No.
Tyler Porter Jordan.
No.
8 yes and 9 no.
The act fails. All right. Next is announcements. Any announcements? I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Councilor Burke, second by Councilor All in favor, say aye.
Sweet meeting.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
Did a good job.